Welcome, dear students, to 9th class Social Studies, 3rd lesson, Hydrosphere, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh syllabus. Let's start. Our second digital lesson. Hydrosphere. As you all know that it has been raining on Earth for thousands of years. Have you ever thought about why the water in the seas and oceans never dried up? Less than 1% of water that reaches the earth is useful to human beings. Can this water meet the necessities of all the human beings? Let's see. Hydrosphere. Water is a cyclical renewable resource. It can be used and reused. Water goes through a cycle from oceans to land and then from land to ocean. The water cycle has been going on for billions of years and all the life on earth depends on it. Hydrological cycle is the circulation of water in different forms, that is liquid, solid and gaseous phase. Hydrological cycle. It also refers to the continuous exchange of water between the oceans, atmosphere, land surface, subsurface and all the living organisms. Hydrological cycle is sometimes expressed as Rf is equals to Ro plus Et, where Rf means rainfall includes all types of precipitation right from the rain to hail, snow, fog, etc. And runoff is Ro. Et is evapotranspiration. When plants and trees lose water in the atmosphere is called evapotranspiration. There are 6 stages of water cycle. First, evaporation, transportation, condensation, precipitation, runoff and groundwater. Let's discuss these in detail. Evaporation. Water is transferred from the surface of Earth to atmosphere through evaporation, the process by which water changes from liquid to gaseous form, and sun's warmth heats up and evaporates the water from the Earth's surface. Land, rivers, and oceans send up a steady stream of water vapors through this process. Plants also lose water to the air through transpiration. Let's discuss transportation, condensation, and precipitation. Transportation, the movement of water through the atmosphere, especially from over the ocean to over the land, in the form of clouds, is transportation. Condensation, the transported water vapor eventually condenses, forming tiny droplets and clouds. Precipitation, when the clouds meet cool air over the land, precipitation in the form of rain, sleet, snow is triggered and water returns to the land. Let's discuss about runoff. Most of the water which returns to the land flows down the hills as runoff. Some of it penetrates into the land and charges the groundwater, while the rest of it, as the rivers flows, returns to the ocean where it evaporates. Let's discuss about the groundwater. Under special circumstances, groundwater can even flow upwards through artesian well. The flow of groundwater is much slower than runoff. The hydrological cycle is not a simple process of circulation of water between ocean, atmosphere, and land. There are a number of subcycles operating with it. Let's discuss about water sources. As you can see, ocean waters are 97%, groundwater is 22%, fresh water is 3%, and frozen 77%, lakes, rivers, and streams 1% of water. Let's discuss this in detail. Reservoirs, water resources. Ocean contains 97.2169% of water, and ice caps 97.25% of water is saline ocean water. Only 2.75% only 2.75% is fresh water. The greatest portion of the fresh water, 68.7%, is in the form of ice and permanent snow cover in the Antarctica and the Arctic Oceans. In the mountain region, 29.9% exists as fresh groundwaters. Only 0.26% of the total amount of fresh water on the earth is concentrated in lakes. Let's discuss about oceans. Continent and oceans are the first order landform features of the earth, and the large water bodies are called oceans. The geographers have divided the ocean into 5 major oceans, like the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, the Antarctic Ocean, and the Arctic Ocean. And the word sea is often used interchangeably with ocean, but strictly speaking, a sea is a body of saline water, partly or fully enclosed by land. Let's discuss about relief of the ocean. The ocean basins are in many ways similar to the land surface. There are submarine ridges, plateaus, canyons, and terraces found within oceans. Ocean floor is divided into 4 parts, namely continental shelf, continental slope, deep sea plain, and oceanic trenches. Let's discuss this in detail. Continental shelf. The continental shelf, with a depth of 200 meters, occupies 7.6% of ocean area. It is the border zone between the land and the sea. Continental shelf is important because the fish wealth is more in this region. Crude oil, natural gas is available, and building seaport is possible here. The largest continental shelf is Siberian Shelf in the Arctic Ocean, stretching to 1500 kilometers in width. Let's discuss about continental slope. As already we have learned, the ocean basins are in many ways similar to the land surface. There are submarine ridges, plateaus, plains, canyons, and terraces found within the ocean. Ocean floor is divided into 4 parts: continental shelf, continental slope, deep sea plains or abyssal plains, then oceanic trenches we are having. And the depth of the continental slope is 200 to 3,000 meters. It covers up 15% of the volume of the ocean. The continental slope boundaries indicates the continents. Submarine canyons have also been observed in this region. They are formed by the process of erosion of glaciers and rivers. Now, abyssal plains, deep sea plains or abyssal plains are gently sloping areas of the ocean basins. These are flattest and smoothest places. These are flattest and smoothest regions of the world. The depth vary between 3,000 to 6,000 meters, and it covers 76.2% of the ocean basin. Let's discuss more about the oceanic trenches. You can see the oceanic trenches depth goes up to 6,000 meters. They are found close to continents. Contrary to our expectations, most of the deepest trenches are not located in the midst of ocean, but it actually found near the continents. Let's discuss about salinity of the ocean. Isobars, a line joining points on the seabed at an equal vertical distance beneath the surface, sometimes referred to as depth contours, that is isobars. Let's discuss in detail about salinity of the ocean. Most of the salt in the ocean comes from the land. Over millions of years, rain, rivers, and streams have washed over rocks containing the compound sodium chloride, NaCl, and carried it into a sea. Sodium chloride, by its name, table salt, most of the salt in the oceans comes from the sea volcanoes and hydrothermal vents. When water evaporates from the surface of the ocean, the salt is left behind. Over millions of years, the oceans have developed a noticeable salt water. Salinity is the term used to define the total content of dissolved salt in seawater. It is calculated as the amount of salt in grams dissolved in 1000 grams of seawater. For example, you just take a glass, 1000 grams of water, you just pour in the glass, and 35 grams of salt you take and dissolve in the water. So this is considered to be the salinity of ocean water. That is, it is usually expressed as part per thousand. The average salinity of the ocean is 35%, or about 35 parts of salt in 1000 parts of water. All seawater contains large amount of dissolved mineral matter, of which sodium chloride or common salt alone constitute 77.8% ppt. River water contains 2% of sodium chloride. Likewise, you can see 50 ppt you will find that is a brine pools, and saline water salt lakes are 30 to 50 ppt. Here, Red Sea contains 40 ppt, which is very salty water. Mediterranean Sea 38 ppt. Average seawater is 34.7 ppt, parts per thousand. That is brackish. And Black Sea contains 18 ppt. Likewise, very less drinking water contains 0.1 ppt. Let's discuss ocean temperature. The ocean temperature is influenced by latitudes, winds, ocean currents, unequal distribution of land, and change of seasons. Normally, the temperature in the ocean varies from -2 degrees Celsius to 29 degrees Celsius. Vertical distribution of temperature: as one goes deep inside the oceans, the temperature decreases. The fall in temperature is very steep for the first kilometers. After that, there is a steady decline of 5 kilometers below. The temperature is steady at about 2 degrees Celsius. Ocean currents. Let's discuss ocean currents. The ocean current is the general movement of mass of water moving in a fairly defined direction over great distances. The ocean currents are sometimes called ocean rivers, and they are being called as the warm surface flow and cool surface flow. Ocean currents may be classified based on temperature as cold currents and warm currents. Currents. Generally, warm currents flow towards the poles and cold currents flow towards the equator, as you can see here. The cold currents are moving towards the equator, from south to equator and from north to equator. This is the cold currents. And warm currents, they are moving upwards to the poles. Ocean currents are classified as streams and drift based on speed. The ocean water currents which flow very speedily is called a stream, and that which flows very slowly is called a drift. Ocean currents are caused by the following factor. The reason behind the warm current in ocean currents are centrifugal force, effects of winds, precipitation, and solar energy. Let's discuss those in details. About centrifugal force. The centrifugal force at the equator is greater than that at the poles because the great circle at that time of revolution coincides with the equator. At the time of revolution, the circles of equator, it coincides with the equator. The variation of these forces make the equatorial water to move towards the poles. Let's discuss about effect of wind. The stress is due to the wind and the wind movements. It modifies the theoretical direction of currents. Due to the frictional gliding of wind, water is dragged along the wind direction. Thus, 50 miles per hour wind will produce a current whose velocity is 0.75 miles per hour. Let's discuss about precipitation. The equatorial areas receive the greatest rainfall, hence the sea level is higher. As a result, water moves north and south from the equator. Let's discuss about solar energy. Heating by solar energy causes the water to expand. That is why the ocean water is about 8 cm higher in level near the equator than in the middle latitudes. This causes a very slight gradient and water tends to flow down the slope. Salinity, density differences, melting of ice glaciers affect the ocean currents. Ocean as resource. Let's discuss. Human beings have been dependent on oceans for their food and livelihood from the ancient times. Ocean provided abundant food resources like fish and salt. We also use the sand, gravel for our industries or housing. Humans extract minerals like chlorine, fluorine, iodine from ocean. And ocean waves are also used for generating power. Ocean floor is mined for oils, and ocean provided us with gems and pearls. Ocean is also used for international trade and transportation.